what I asked them to do is basically to go and talk to people about their customs of drinking coffee. And it's something everyone shares. Coffee, I mean, I had 2 cups. You had how many cups today? You had a coffee and a cigarette. But to really look very closely. And I think this looking closely is quite important to really understand differences and the richness between those differences. So the idea was really to go out into the town and experience something hands-on. Ideally, in all the examples we've seen that were successful, I felt if someone is really getting close to the subject, they've become full of detail, specifics, and very rich in terms of a cultural mapping, I would say, or an image of a situation. So it's really an understanding that you have to engage, and you have to, in many ways, use your own qualities to do so. So you have a certain way of communicating, a certain charm or sense of humor that you have to deploy. And often it's around these kind of characteristics a project fails or succeeds. So either you do it yourself or you find people who are very good at it. But I think it's quite good to experience that awkwardness, and it's an awkwardness when you go out and knock on someone's door. And but it's also quite rewarding because you see that it's actually quite a positive experience. And that's quite common to a lot of our projects, where in the beginning you sit on the street somewhere and you think, oh my God, what am I doing? And then after, when the day goes on, it becomes really quite a memorable day and rich day. So I think that's quite an important moment, I think, in cultural mapping, because you have to engage with your subject. The other thing, I wanted them to look at the place, Nicosia, where they are, and there are tourists here. And I think that position again is quite interesting, where you are the alien. And that is actually quite for us, quite normal, because we are asked as agents to go into a situation, and you have to be aware of that situation, I feel. And you have to kind of, that also opens up a lot of doors in a way, because you're neutral to a situation. So they can easily go to either side. They're not Greek Turks or not Greek Cypriots, and it's not so coded who they are. So everyone goes to the north and everyone goes to the south to interview one person in detail about their customs of drinking coffee. And we started that exercise with a reflection on their own habits. So they kind of had a very quick look at how their favorite cup of coffee, where they drink it, how they drink it, and how they could draw it. And I've asked them to draw it rather than to write it down, because I think that communication is much faster and much more accessible. So that's for me when, I don't know, when we talk about mapping, we talk about all different kinds of mapping, but like a visual, I'm interested in quite a visual mapping. So these 30 people, hopefully they go out as individuals. So we have 60 readings of different customs, and we can locate them then geographically on a map. And there is no larger purpose. The purpose is the exercise. So there's no project to kind of bring people together from both sides via coffee. But it could be. It could be. I mean, it's an exercise. So there's no larger aim as such. But often, the way in architecture you do mappings is to understand the context in which to place a project. So often that step is also, in a way, a research, yeah, to kind of start or embed a project. And it could be that you have already an agenda, and then you tailor your mapping according to that agenda.
We went walking down the streets, and for the odd, we found 3 old men sitting on a table with funny trays, small cups of coffee, similar to our coffee, and served with water. So I was rude enough to say, can I join you for a coffee? He didn't understand, but he said yes. Somehow I understood that it was yes. Sat there, we had a very small discussion, and I had delicious Greek, Arabic, Turkish, whatever you want to call it, coffee. For the odd, I always drink my coffee like crazy people, working one hand on the keyboard and the other on the coffee. But this time it was, when they get me my coffee, I picked up the cup and he immediately said, no, you start with water, don't drink the coffee. I was like, this is why they always get me water with the coffee.
I started the day with a cup of coffee. I had a cup of coffee in the middle of the day and I'm going to have another cup of coffee shortly.
What sort of coffee was it?
Filter coffee this morning and a Turkish coffee at lunchtime.
Coffee at the hotel is not the best coffee ever. It's not good at all. And I really miss we call it Arabic coffee, you call it Greek coffee, some people call it Turkish coffee, whatever, but it's the traditional coffee of the Middle East.
I don't drink coffee.
Why don't you drink coffee?
I'm a tea person.
I woke up quite late. Thought I'm late for this interview. So I rushed to the coffee machine and pressed the button a cappuccino, which everyone was surprised because I had froth and everyone was a bit jealous and they didn't know which button to press. So it had a moment of interaction, but it's an awful coffee.
I'm Italian, and I am an Italian who loves tea. I love tea. I know a lot about tea. Any place I go, I try to look for teas, local teas, people who know about teas. Sometimes I find them, and it's sometimes it's very exciting. Yes.
Usually in Bethlehem, I go to my office, which is located inside the historic town. Once you start entering the small route that leads to the building, there's a small door with a man serving coffee to the whole neighborhood. He's very famous in Bethlehem. He holds a tray and he sells you he distributes coffee to everybody. My day starts in Bethlehem with this coffee. Once I enter, start walking down the aisle to get to my office, I will say good morning to him, he'll say good morning. 2 minutes later, I have my coffee on my desk in Bethlehem.
And what I've noticed increasingly is people don't just ask you whether you want it sweet, medium or without sugar. They now ask what kind of roast do you want. There are different, heavy roasts, or there's the light roast, there's the local roast, there's the roast from Turkey. So it's become very complicated now having a cup of coffee.
So we can do Good morning. Do you have coffee? Yes, of course. What kind of coffee? Cyprus coffee. It's Turkish coffee. Cyprus coffee. But it's made like Turkish coffee. It's a Cyprus coffee. But I want to say it's made like Turkish coffee, just to know. It's a Cyprus coffee. But I don't want to insist about how it's made. It's made like Turkish coffee. It's a Cyprus coffee. Now don't touch me.